Hello, this is a news of Ukraine just rewrote to the rules of war. On Sunday morning, December 7, 1941, the Imperial Japanese Navy wrote the rules of warfare. Almost no one had imagined that the Japanese could sneak across an entire ocean to attack an impregnable fortress as U.S. strategists had described Hawaii. Yet that is just what they did. The Japanese aircraft launched from 6 aircraft carriers managed to destroy damage 328 U.S. aircraft and 19 U.S. Navy ships, including 8 battleships. The Pearl Harbor attack signaled the ascendance of aircraft carriers as the dominant force in naval warfare. The Ukrainians wrote the rules of warfare again on Sunday. The Russian High Commander must have been as shocked as the Americans were in 1941 when the Ukrainians carried out a surprise attack against 5 Russian air bases located far from the front. 2 of them thousands of miles away in the Russian far northern and Siberia. The Ukrainian intelligence services, known as the CBU, managed to sneak large numbers of drones deep inside Russia in wooden cabins, transported by truck, then launched them by remote control. President Vladimir Zelensky claimed that Operation Superdrone, as the Ukrainians are calling it, destroyed or disabled a third of the bombers Russia has been using to launch long-range cruise missiles against Ukraine. Among the Russian planes that were hit, reportedly were 295 and 222 bombers and A-50 airborne rearming and control aircraft. According to the U.S. AWACS, said there is no independent confirmation yet of the damage. Little wonder that Russian military progress issued to compare Sunday attack to the one on Pearl Harbor 84 years ago. The analogy in that where the Pearl Harbor attack signaled the start of a new war, the airfield attack against Russia was simply another attempt by Ukrainians to defend themselves against the unprovoked war of aggression launched by Vladimir Putin in 2022. But the analogy might make sense in that both attacks could signal the obsolescence of once dominant weapons system. Battleships in 1941 manned the aircraft. Today, swarms of Ukrainian drones that probably cost tens of thousands of dollars to build in total might have inflicted $2 billion of damage on Russia's most sophisticated aircraft. In the process, the Ukrainians revealed the vulnerability that should give every general in the world sleepless nights. If the Ukrainians could sneak drones so close to major air bases in a police state such as Russia, what is it to prevent the Chinese from doing the same with USA air bases, or the Pakistanis with Indian air bases, or the North Koreans with South Korean air bases? Militaries that truth they had secured their air bases with electrified fences and guard posts will now have to reckon with the threat from the skies posed by cheap ubiquitous drones that can be easily modified for military use. This is will necessitate a massive investment in a counter-drone system. Money spent on a conversion manned weapons system increasingly look to be as wasted as spending on the cavalry in the 1930s. Operation Spiderweb will not be a decisive blow against the Russian military and more than the Pearl Harbor attack was a decisive blow against the U.S. military, but just as Pearl Harbor signaled that Japan would be a far more formidable foe than most Westerners had expected. Sunday's attack shows yet against that the Ukrainians are proving far more resilient and adaptable fighters than anyone had anticipated before the start of Russia's full-scale invasion more than 3 years ago. The front lines remain stagnant, and the Ukrainians are making up for their manpower deficit by developing a world-leading drone industry. The Ukrainians say they produced 2.2 million drones last year and aim to build 4.5 million this year. Of course, the Russians are building their own drones with Iranian help, but they have consistently been step or two behind the Ukrainians in the drone race, as Sunday operation again showed. Operation Spiderweb was brilliant and daring to make up for the fact that Ukraine is running low on ammunition for its Patriot air defense systems, and President Donald Trump appears in no mood to send any replacement. European countries are trying to help, but Patriots are in scarce supply rather than simply trying to shut down Russian missiles in flight. The Ukrainians figured out how to disable the aircraft that launched the missiles where they are sitting on a tarmac. During the infamous Trump-Zelensky argument in the Oval Office in February, the US president told his Ukrainian counterpart, "You don't have the cards or Zelensky just played, if you will pardon the phrase." His Trump called Ukrainian ingenuity. The Ukrainians have consistently shown themselves to be more courageous and squared than their enemies, and even if the performance of the Russian armed forces has improved since the early days of the war. While sounding Ukrainian resolve, Sunday's attack could also undermine nuclear stability because the same bombers that launch conventional cruise missiles against Ukraine are also designed to launch nuclear weapons. This should serve to remind US of why it's so dangerous to have such a HOT US administration at such a dangerous moment. At a time like this, it would be nice if the president had a full staff for the National Security Council led by a tested seasoned advisor, rather than an NSC that is led by a moonlighting Secretary of State and that has just been purged of many of its most experienced staffers. Trump has been fulminating about Russian attacks on Ukrainian civilians, but he is not doing anything about them. The Ukrainians have taken matters into their own hands. the drone strike while raising the strategic stakes and in order of the provoking Russian retaliation is exactly the kind of high pressure tactic needed to persuade Putin to negotiate in earnest, just as the two sides are set to sit down again in Turkey. Through their actions, the Ukrainians are signaling they refuse to be defeated and that they have the resources to keep fighting. Thank you for subscribing.